They shook hands, and Mr. Weasley dropped into the chair behind Harry as Mrs. Weasley set a bowl of soup in front of him, too. Thanks, Molly. It's been a tough night. Some idiots started selling metamorph medals. Just sling them around your neck, and you'll be able to change your appearance at will. 100,000 disguises, all for 10 galleons. And what really happens when you put them on? Mostly you just turn a fairly unpleasant orange color. But a couple of people have also sprouted tentacle-like warts all over their bodies. As if St. Mungos didn't have enough to do already. It sounded like the sort of thing Fred and George would find funny, said Mrs. Weasley hesitantly. Are you sure? Oh, of course I am, Mr. Weasley. The boys wouldn't do anything like that now. Not when people are desperate for protection. So this is why you're late. Metamorph medals? No, we got wind of a nasty backfiring jinx down in Elephant and Castle. But luckily the magical law enforcement squad had sorted it out by the time we got there. Harry stifled a yawn before his hand. Bed, said an undeceived Mrs. Weasley at a glance. I've got Fred and George's room all ready for you. You'll have it to yourself. Why, where are they? Oh, they're in Diagon Alley, sleeping in a little flat over their joke shop as they're so busy, said Mrs. Weasley. I must say, I didn't approve at first, but they do seem to be having a bit of flair for business. Come on, dear, your trunk's already up there. Night, Mr. Weasley, said Harry, pushing back his chair. Crookshanks leapt lightly from his lap and slunk out of the room. Good night, Harry, said Mr. Weasley. Harry saw Mrs. Weasley glance at the clock in the washing basket as they left the kitchen. All hands were once again at mortal peril. Fred and George's bedroom was on the second floor. Mrs. Weasley pointed her wand at the lamp at the bedside table, and it ignited at once, bathing the room in a pleasant golden glow. There was a large vase of flowers that had been placed on a desk in front of the small window. Their perfume could not disguise the lingering smell of what Harry thought was gunpowder. A considerable amount of floor space was devoted to a vast number of unmarked, sealed cardboard boxes, amongst which stood Harry's school trunk. The room looked as though it was being used as a temporary warehouse. Hedwig hooted happily at Harry from the perch on top of a large wardrobe. Then took off through the window. Harry knew she had been waiting to see him before going hunting. Harry bade Mrs. Weasley good night, put on pajamas, and got into one of the beds. There was something hard inside the pillowcase. He groped inside and pulled out a sticky purple and orange sweet, which he recognized as puking pastille. Smiling to himself, he rolled over and was instantly asleep. Seconds later, or so it seemed to Harry, he was awakened at what sounded like a cannon fire as the door burst open. Sitting bolt upright, he heard the rasp of the curtains being pulled back. The dazzling sunlight seemed to poke him hard in both eyes. Shielding them with one hand, he groped hopelessly for his glasses with the other. "What's going on?" "We didn't know you were here already," said a loud and excited voice, and he received a sharp blow on the top of his head. "Ron, don't hit him," said a girl's voice reproachfully. Harry found his glasses and he shoved them on, though the light was so bright he could hardly see anything. A long, looming shadow hovering in front of him for a moment. He blinked, and then Ron Weasley came into focus, grinning down at him. "All right?" "Never been better," said Harry, rubbing the top of his head and slumping back into his pillows. "You?" "Not bad," said Ron, pulling over a cardboard box and sitting on it. "When did you get here? Mom's only just told us." "About 1 o'clock this morning. Were the Muggles all right? Did they treat you okay?" "Same as usual," said Harry, as Hermione perched herself on the edge of his bed. "They didn't talk to me much, but I like it better that way. How are you, Hermione?" "Oh, I'm fine," said Hermione, who was scrutinizing Harry as though he was sickening for something. He thought he knew what was behind this, and he had no wish to discuss Sirius's death or any miserable subject at that matter. He said, "What's the time? Have I missed breakfast?" "Don't worry about that. Mom's bringing you up a tray. She reckons you look underfed," said Ron, trolling his eyes. "So, what's been going on?" Nothing much. I've just been stuck at my aunt and uncle's, haven't I?" "Come off it," said Ron. "You've been off with Dumbledore." "It wasn't that exciting. He just wanted me to help persuade this old teacher come out of retirement. His name's Horace Slughorn." "Oh," said Ron, looking disappointed. "We thought—" Hermione flashed a warning at Ron, and Ron changed track at top speed. "We thought it'd be something like that." "You did," said Harry, amused. Yeah, now that Umbridge is left, obviously we need a new defense against the dark arts teacher, don't we? So, what's he like? He looks a bit like a walrus, and he used to be head of the Slytherin, said Harry. Something wrong, Hermione? She was watching him as though expecting to see symptoms to manifest themselves at any moment. She rearranged her features hastily in an unconvincing smile. No, of course not. So, did Slughorn seem like he'd be a good teacher? Dunno, said Harry. He can't be worse than Umbridge, can he? I know someone who's worse than Umbridge, said a voice from the doorway. Ron's younger sister slouched into the room, looking irritable. Hi, Harry. What's up with you? Ron asked. It's her, said Ginny, plonking herself down on Harry's bed. She's driving me mad. What's she done now? Said Hermione sympathetically. It's the way she talks to me. You'd think I was about 3. I know, said Hermione, dropping her voice. She's so full of herself. Harry was astonished to hear Hermione talking about Mrs. Weasley like this, and could not blame Ron for saying angrily, Can't you two lay off her for 5 seconds? Oh, that's right, defend her, snapped Ginny. We all know you can't get enough of her. This seemed an odd comment to make about Ron's mother. Starting to feel like that he was missing something, Harry said, Who are you? But his question was answered before he could finish it. The bedroom door flew open again, and Harry instinctively yanked the bed covers up to his chin so hard that Hermione and Ginny slid off the bed onto the floor. A young woman was standing in the doorway, a woman of such breathtaking beauty that the room seemed to have become strangely airless. She was tall and willowing, with long blonde hair and an eminent face, silvery glow. To complete this vision of perfection, she was carrying a heavily laden breakfast tray. Harry, she said in a throaty voice, it's been too long. As she swept over the threshold toward him, Mrs. Weasley was revealed, bobbing along in her wake, looking rather cross. There was no need to bring up the tray. I was just about to do it myself. It was no trouble, said Fleur Delacour, setting the tray across Harry's knees and then swooping down to kiss him on the cheek. He felt the places where her mouth had touched him burn. I've been longing to see him. You remember my sister, Gabrielle? She never stops talking about Harry Potter. She will be delighted to see you again. Oh, is she here too? Harry croaked. No, silly boy, said Fleur with a tinkling laugh. I mean next summer, when we... But you do not know? Her great blue eyes widened, and she looked reproachfully at Mrs. Weasley, who said, We hadn't got around to telling him yet. Fleur turned back to Harry, swinging her silvery sheet of hair so that it whipped Mrs. Weasley across the face. Bill and I are going to get married. Oh, said Harry blankly. He could not help noticing how Mrs. Weasley, Hermione, and Ginny were all determinedly avoiding one another's gaze. Wow, congratulations. She swooped down upon him and kissed him again. Bill is very busy at the moment, working very hard, and I only work part-time at Gringotts for my English. So he brought me here for a few days to get to know his family properly. I was so pleased to hear that you would be coming. There is not much to do here, unless you like cooking and chickens. Well, enjoy your breakfast, Harry. With those words, she turned gracefully and seemed to float out of the room, closing the door behind her. Mrs. Weasley made a sound like "Tcha!" Mum hates her, said Ginny quietly. I do not hate her, said Mrs. Weasley in a cross voice. I just think they've hurried into this engagement, that's all. They've known each other a year, said Ron, who looked oddly groggy and was staring at the closed door. Well, it's not very long. I know why it's happened, of course. It's all this uncertainty with you-know-who coming back. People think they might be dead tomorrow, so they're rushing all sorts of decisions they normally take over time.